I'm your host, Eric Eisenberg. Welcome to Hero Blend number 41. We've been hearing a ton of news recently about Marvel, DC, and the X-Men, but it's been a while since we last heard anything official about Spider-Man. The future of the wall crawler seems really uncertain, but we have a few ideas how to right the ship. Check it out.
Welcome back, everyone. I am very excited to have on this week my very good colleague from Cinema Blend and Spider-Man fanatic, Mr. Sean O'Connell. How you doing, man?
I'm good. If I have any kind of knowledge about anything, it's Spider-Man, so you're using me properly.
You are my go-to Spider-Man guy. That is without question. If I'm going to be talking about Spider-Man on Hero Blend, it is time to contact Sean O'Connell. That is 100% certain. So we are going to spend this week talking about kind of the future of Spider-Man, and I talked about this in the intro, but we haven't heard about this in a while. We've heard so much about every other comic book franchise. I mean, DC and Marvel and even the X-Men. What's going on with Spider-Man, Sean? I mean, I know you liked Amazing Spider-Man 2 more than most, but what's up with this franchise?
The dude is in limbo, and it's time for Sony to... I don't know if I want to go so far as to say that they need to announce their grand plan, because I just want them to get the next one right. And the next one could be a number of different things. We think it's going to be the Sinister Six. We've heard right now everything with Spider-Man is just rumors. Mm-hmm. We've heard rumors of an all-female driven Spider-Man story, which could be people like Black Cat, Silver Sable, Spider-Woman. Yeah. We've heard rumors recently that Amazing Spider-Man 3 could bring back Emma Stone. It just feels like a lot of these rumors are reactionary rumors to, holy cow, Marvel has a whole slate, DC Warner has a whole slate, and what do we have? We have nothing. And so it's a lot of uncertainty and a ton of rumors.
It's strange that, I mean, we know so many steps ahead of the DC Cinematic Universe. I mean, we know up till 2020 for DC. We know until 2019 for Marvel. I mean, at least we know like Deadpool and X-Men Apocalypse, and now it looks like Gambit is going to be on the radar as well for X-Men. But Spider-Man, everything is up in the air. They need to establish a solid plan. What that plan is exactly what I want to talk about with you this week. I think one thing that we've all been talking about recently, and with good reason, is the idea that Spider-Man could come back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Obviously, there are very interesting complications and very important complications that come with doing that. But I'm curious about your thoughts on that idea in general.
I like that idea, but it's a last-ditch effort. And the reason why Spider-Man is struggling right now is because they've encountered what Marvel hasn't yet, and that's they hit a movie that wasn't well received. If Amazing Spider-Man 2 connected the way that the studio wanted it to, they would be on track for Sinister Six and Amazing Spider-Man 3 happily. And they'd still be pushing the Oscorp mythology, and they would still have Andrew Garfield, and they would still be going down that path. Consider this. What if Winter Soldier failed? What if they gave it to the Russos and it didn't work? Would Marvel still be able to push ahead as successfully as they have? I think they'd have to reconsider some of their decisions at the very least. So with Spider-Man, they're being hit with what we thought was our plan is being questioned by the fans. They don't necessarily want it. So, yeah, this option of do we give Spider-Man the character over to Marvel and let him play in this Civil War storyline where it seems like he's going to fit, I think that is an option, but it seems like they're trying to put Black Panther in there in the part that Spider-Man potentially played, which is this go-between Captain America and Iron Man. And it's almost like Marvel's like, we don't expect to get Spider-Man, so we're going to go ahead without him, and if he arrives, we'll find a way to use him because they're smart enough to just be able to plug him in.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they did with Daredevil, and he's obviously now going to be playing a huge role. But you make a the entire key point here is that Amazing Spider-Man 2 didn't do well. It underperformed at the box office. It underperformed with audiences. Underperformed with critics. That harms what's going forward. But essentially, that is what means. That's when you get creative. That's when you need to start coming up with the new ideas. And like you said, Marvel Cinematic Universe joining is kind of a last-ditch effort. From Sony's perspective, they don't want to dilute the brand of having Spider-Man. They I mean, they paid certainly a lot of money for these rights. They've been working hard to maintain them, and that's essentially their argument, and also the concept of the creatives that Spider-Man doesn't need these other characters, and frankly, he shouldn't. Let's be real; he should be able to exist within his own universe. I mean, he kind of sort of does within the comics for the most part, with his own set of characters. But I think drastic change is what's necessary, and I think actually if we're not going to be joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think one potential idea, and it's one that's not being explored by anybody at this point, is potentially breaking up the idea of serial films. Instead of having every film follow the continuity of the next and just and make entire thing one story, you make it more like a television show, and you tell great Spider-Man stories that don't necessarily you essentially go in a different direction with it, but there's a lot of creative possibilities there.
Well, absolutely. That's why I kind of view that put him in the MCU as a last-ditch effort, because there should be at least 5 options that are solely limited to making a good Spider-Man movie before they had to concede, yeah, we failed with this option, and we can't figure out what to do with him, and so here, Marvel, you fix him. Mm-hmm. I even think that there are ways to pair him with a character who hasn't been seen yet, in a way that Spider-Man often teamed up with certain characters. It gets to be so complicated because some of the ones that he regularly teamed up with, they belong other places. Like, a Spider-Man Daredevil movie would be so interesting. A Spider-Man Wolverine adventure would rock.
I'd kill a Spider-Man Daredevil or Deadpool movie. Like that would be amazing. Those two are fantastic together.
Right. Tell me you wouldn't watch a standalone Spider-Man movie that was him and the Punisher versus the Kingpin.
Oh yeah.
There's so many things that you can do with him as a character, and if you went, now I liked the Oscorp stuff more than most people did, and fine, it didn't work. But you could just sort of abandon that and not give up on the Spider-Man franchise completely. And I still think people like Garfield. They didn't mind him as Peter Parker.
Oh no, I defend him wholeheartedly.
I think you have to get rid of Webb, and I love Webb, but I think the idea of the romantic comedy Spider-Man, and they hired him for his ability to make the connection between the two leads. Mm-hmm. That was to do the Gwen Stacy story, and that worked, and now you got to hire somebody else. Like, I've seen suggestions of make a Spider-Man movie that's like The Raid, where, it's a nonstop action movie where you barely see Peter. It's just Spider-Man having to get through the Enforcers and Kingpin and throw in the Vulture. You haven't seen them all before, but he has a mission that gets him from point A to point B, and it's all action. People would devour that. They would love it. It doesn't have to be world building. It doesn't have to be complicated.
I totally think that's exactly what I mean. And you made a very good point when you said that people didn't really respond to the Oscorp stuff. And I think the thing with that is not so much that people didn't respond to the Oscorp stuff as much as they've seen it in the Raimi films. Like, it's the biggest problem with the Amazing Spider-Man movies is that they are retreading a lot of ground. And I mean, we've seen they've been talking about Venom, which is a character we've seen in the Sam Raimi movies. Maybe not in the best way possible, but we saw him. We saw the Doc Ock arms in Oscorp. Again, that's a character we've seen. We don't need to be retreading this ground again, especially because Spider-Man is a very rich universe. There are tons of characters that we haven't seen yet. Vulture is a very good example, and once again hinted at. And there's also been talk of Kraven would be another great one. There are tons of possibilities, and actually, one thing that Spider-Man could even do that, in my opinion, could go even bigger than anything Marvel or X-Men or DC is doing is open up the multiverse. Basically do Shattered Dimensions, open up the doors to like Ultimate Spider-Man, I mean the Miles Morales version, open up to Spider-Man 2099, maybe Spider-Man Noir. Tell these completely different Spider-Man movies or the Spider-Man story with all these different versions, because nobody else is trying that. Nobody else has stepped into that bound yet, and Spider-Man would be perfect for that.
I agree with that to a certain extent, but what I would like to see them do is go smaller.
Smaller. Okay.
I loved some of my favorite Spider-Man stories were just the single-issue ones where he was doing something in New York City on a smaller scale. It didn't have to be a multi-part, because Marvel's got that down. They're doing it. Warner's trying to do it. I would love to see them just focus on a story that's contained to one movie. That still gives Andrew Garfield a chance to shine as potentially, you know, the Spider-Man that he wants to be.
Yeah.
And what's disappointing about that is that I liked the idea of Chris Cooper's Norman Osborn. I still want to see that. I still want to see a Green Goblin movie. You know, not Harry Osborn necessarily. But I don't. But I don't. I agree with you. I don't necessarily want them to go down that road. I think they've burned that bridge. But now, so far in the Webb franchise, it's almost like with Nolan. Like he did Batman Begins, and he did Scarecrow and Ra's al Ghul, which was great. But you wanted to see the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
With the Webb Spider-Man movies, you either want to see Doc Ock or Green Goblin. You know, those are the guys. You know, you want to see those villains. But I don't know if they're going to be able to get to that point. I think too much time has passed.
Well, or even not enough is it's kind of the opposite side of that, where you still have the Raimi movies. But I mean, it's a definite conflict. We are running out of time though, so Sean, what do you think is key to basically Spider-Man's new direction?
Strong leadership, a strong voice. Pick a path and stick to it. And here's what I'd like them to do. You have Drew Goddard, and he's doing a Sinister Six movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great filmmaker and a great storyteller.
100% agreed. Cabin in the Woods is incredible.
Put Andrew Garfield in that movie. Just let fans enjoy that movie. Don't start thinking about how is it going to lead to the next 4 or 5 movies. Do that movie right. Win the fans back. Give them an entertaining Spider-Man movie, and all's going to be forgiven. You know that. If it's an entertaining film, people are going to be on board, and then we'll be writing articles for the next year and a half about, hey, what's next? But that'll give you a chance to regroup and plan what you want to do next. But you have Drew Goddard. You have an idea for the Sinister Six movie. Put Spidey in that, and buy yourself some time, because I think he can make an entertaining movie with Spider-Man potentially first fighting these guys, and then maybe teaming up with them to defeat a bigger bad.
I completely agree. I think basically this franchise has a lot of great parts to it. It just needs that creative vision, and also, but it also needs to recoup. It needs to kind of get itself together. And the truth of the matter is, people love Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a great character. He's been around for decades for a very good reason. He's an incredibly, like, you empathize with his struggle. He's unlike any other superhero out there. And it's great. And people want to love Spider-Man movies. They do. And if you give them the opportunity to love them with a great movie, they will. They'll flock to it, they'll come back, and it will be great. But obviously you have to get to that point, and I really hope they do. Sean, thank you so much for being on the show again with me this week, man.
Always a pleasure. You know nobody wants it more than I do.
I do, absolutely, man. Everyone else, have a great week, and I'll see you next one. Have a good one.